Welcome back everybody to Dan Has Fun with me, Daniel, playing more EU4. This is the ledger I showed last episode. Now it has something filled in, the current wars tab. Not sure how we know about some of these wars, like the Kilwan conquest of Anslalova, given that is on the southeast of Africa, but we do, so that's okay. Anyway, last episode we ended up part of the Holy Roman Empire. I even thought we started off in it, but we did not. We fixed that problem. I also thought last episode that we didn't have the ability to have royal marriages. I was wrong there as well. We are one of the few republic types that can. So that is awesome. Anyway, this episode, what we're really trying to do, now that we're in the Holy Roman Empire, just to show, Austria no longer gets involved. Because, you know, I'm in the HRE, Ferrara's in the HRE, they don't really care right now who owns the land, although we'll see in due course that they will probably care eventually. Our allies won't come in though because we don't have at least 10 favours. They accumulate over time. Luneburg honestly will almost never come in because they're miles away, which is why they're not that important. But they're there. We might as well have allied somebody, see if we can get a chain reaction. However, Siena would jump in if we had 10 favours with them. So if we have a look at Siena for a second, we have 3. And we get 0.15 favours per month, just because of the strength relative to them. If you're, say, allied with France, you're going to get far less favours over time because, well, they're super strong and you're a piddly weakling. So they don't value it as greatly as, say, one province minor like Siena would. Makes sense, right? I did have a quick look between episodes to see if anybody else would ally us, and they will. Trent is still interested, and I'm still not enamored with the thought, but I might ally them anyway. The sooner we do, the sooner we'll start accumulating favours. Anhalt would, but who cares? And then Onsbach is kind of in the middle of German land, which really doesn't matter at all. So what we are going to do, we are going to ally Trent, because why not? So we're in an alliance now with Trent. Trent is a bishopric. So they are not really a monarchy or a republic. You cannot do a royal marriage with a bishopric, because it's headed by a bishop, who presumably doesn't have anybody to give to you for marriage purposes. Which is fine. I'm okay with that. It's not a big deal to me. Really, all we're going to do right now is we're going to save some money. We want to wait until Milan ends up in a war, because I'm sure they will. They are also allied to Trent, which is good for me. Is there anything we can do with Austria now we're in the Holy Roman Empire? We can ask for military access, but that's irrelevant. Nothing else really in here right now. There's no way, for example, I mean, theoretically we could, if we weren't a republic, we could ask to be a free city. But we can't proactively request that, so I wonder if this type of republic can be a free city. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that calc is. Anyway, we can't proactively ask for that. I guess in the meantime, we might as well try and increase our relationship with somebody. We're only minus 14 away from getting an alliance with Bohemia, but we can only improve relations by 12. You can increase relationships by up to 100. And if it's your vassal, it can be 200. But that's not going to be enough to really sway the balance there. There's no real point us trying to ally Milan, even though they will naturally quite like us. Because we both hate Mantua. But they're allied to Ferrara, so that doesn't really work for us. Florence won't do it. The Papal States, they hate Florence and Venice, and because Venice scares us, you'd think the Pope would be more inclined to be nice to us. But no, because, you know, we're rivaling Mantua, and they like them, and they have too many diplomatic relationships, and their army's bigger than ours, and their navy's bigger than ours. So there are a lot of reasons why the Pope doesn't want really anything to do with us. But given we don't have anyone else to deal with right now, we're just going to improve relations with them because that will increase the amount of points we get in the papacy. But the more they like us, the better the modifier. So we might as well. Ferrara has a type of rebellion. They have noble rebels. They're going to win. Actually, I can show you the combat screen while I'm at it. So this is what combat looks like between two sides. These are the formations. Clearly there aren't many troops left for the rebels because they've probably run away. Because their morale is virtually non-existent at this point, so they're about to lose. Shows you how many troops they have, what their stats are. That's their morale. That is what's their tactics. The higher the tactics you have, the more damage you tend to do to the opponent. It's based on their discipline stat. And a couple other things. And it shows us the terrain. So it's on hills, so the rebels are technically the attacker, and because it's on a hill, they get a penalty. Be nice if they weren't allied to Milan, because now would be the time to attack them. Here's the first institution. So, the Renaissance. Did we... The Renaissance spawned in our province. How do I know? Without even reading it. Because we're getting 100 of every point. That is absolutely hilarious. So, because we're the birthplace of the Renaissance, we get cheaper development cost in our capital forever. That's amazing. And the Renaissance always spawns in Italy somewhere, usually northern Italy, so we always had a chance of it happening. But the fact that we got it is amazing. It isn't like I went out of my way to make it happen. And there are other institutions that always spawn up in certain locations, so printing press, that will come later, for example, will always spawn in the German area, and global trade will always spawn in the area with the biggest trade value. So there are some examples like that. We can enact a government reform. We've already done tier 1, because that's how we found out that we have a really cool type of republic that I did not know about. So we can go to tier 2, so we can either have authoritarianism or republicanism. Authoritarianism just gives you less unrest. Republicanism gives you more yearly republic tradition. Not as important for a nation that only does its election every 12 years, but I'm still going to take it because Europe's going to get pretty unstable in general anyway soon, so it's really not a big worry. Interesting that Siena had Catholic zealots in a Catholic nation, but okay. It's perfectly fine. Man, I wish I could get away into not having Milan jump in. That would be awesome if I could, but I don't think we have any way of avoiding it. So, we're still watching to see if Milan will go to war, because if they will, we can eat Ferrara. Because I'm pretty sure one-on-one we can beat them. We do have a Cardinal Minister, so we have an event for that. We can just get 10 prestige if we want to. Or, we can give our clergy some influence, sacrifice our tolerance of heretics, but we really don't have any anywhere near us, and get a whole stack of benefits for 20 in-game years. So of course we're going to do that. That is no-brainer. We also can embrace our institution. So because the Renaissance spawned in our capital, it's going to cost us 1 gold. And doing it is very, very sensible. It actually makes building things cheaper. So we're just going to pay that 1 gold. What will happen now is, if I go into the institution screen, I'm going to go through 1 month because I don't think it does it on the tick straight away, but we can see that we have it present. Over time, oh, it's because I was in colonialism. Yep, certain areas are going to start getting this, but if you're neighbour to a province that has an institution and you're not rivals to them, it generates a lot more quickly. So over time, the Renaissance is going to spread out, just like it would in, at the time. We do have the Italian Renaissance completed, so if we do that, we just get prestige bonuses. Honestly, we can do that one straight away, it really doesn't matter. Actually means our prestige is going to be positive, it's going to tick up for a while, which is pretty cool. Next mission in that tree, though, you've got to improve the capital at least 3 times. And have development at least 15. Actually, that's not that difficult. If we do that, we get 50 admin points. And some bonuses for 25 years. But what's this mission beneath it? We're not going to do that for a while. I mean, we might as well pump our city up. So what we want to do is we can have an edict to make it cheaper, potentially, to do developing. But it does mean that your state is far more expensive to maintain. And given we are short on cash, I'm actually not going to do this. I wanted to point out that you do get some bonuses in the state, but it makes it more and more expensive to run. So what we're going to do, given how many points we have, and it's 665, the accumulation, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. So that's now up to 15. Which means we can now do this, which we're going to do because we want to be strong early in case we do get an opportunity to take a stab at Ferrara. And once we have finished maxing out our relationship with the Pope, we're going to try and get a claim on Ravenna in case the Ottomans start curb stomping Venice for us. Do we want 10 papal influence or 5 prestige? I'm going to take the influence. We can't afford to do any of the things right now. We need 52 papal influence. Defaults as 50, but remember we have that everything costs 5% more to do option. I'm not going to go for more unrest. I'll just take the 2 papal influence, and then the other event there, if we increase the reform desire, it makes Protestantism come out of its shell earlier in terms of the timeline. We don't really care. I haven't decided what religion we're going to end up being. I'm going to try and play it by the seat of our pants, because obviously if we switch to Protestant or Reformed, because that's another option, Pope's going to absolutely hate us. So I have yet to decide. Honestly, Protestant tends to be, in my opinion, the best of the 3 in terms of in-game stats, but I like to just decide on the fly, see how I feel. Bologna in and of itself doesn't have massive differences, but it does have this idea, rebellion against the papacy, which makes it a bit more tempting to switch. Fervour is for Reformed and Church Power is for Protestant, so we're probably going to switch religion, just thematically it makes sense, but I haven't decided. We'll leave that up in the air, just see how it goes. Please, somebody, declare war on somebody so that I can get out of this stalemate. Eventually, if it waits long enough, we're going to end up being able to get Siena and Trent into this war. And I would say they have 4,000 and 5,000-ish respectively. Add my 7. We could probably beat them collectively, but it would be close. And I don't want to chew up all my manpower. We can get this event now too completed. That's just 10 Republican tradition and stability. I'm going to wait until our next election before I use that, because otherwise we're wasting. You can't go over 100 Republican tradition. So we are going to wait. We're about halfway through, roughly, our term, so we'll have to see if we want to get a new person or not. I don't know what kind of role options we have. I don't know if it's going to be just keep the same person or have somebody else from the ruling family or a completely different person. I'm really not sure. We do have the ability, pause for a second, to invest in a new tech. So we can invest in temples. And we actually get a 5% discount on it, presumably because one of our neighbours already has it. And we don't get a penalty of any type because we have feudalism. Everybody in Europe, Middle and Western Europe anyway, starts with feudalism, so that's irrelevant. That's really something if you play as like a horde in the steppes or like as a native or something like that. It gives us the ability to spend, at the moment, 85 gold, it's usually 100, to get a temple, which just gives you more tax income. We also, now, because we're ahead of time, because the game knows roughly in history when certain things were invented, if you're ahead of time, you actually get a bonus as well. So we get less corruption and more production efficiency. It's also the same type of logic for Diplo. You don't get a bonus for being ahead on military tech in terms of, like, efficiency of any kind. Doesn't make sense, right? It just means you can shoot things better. Which is helpful, but it's not something that gives you any monetary advantage. We can, if we wanted to, we can go to Siena or Trent and generate more favours. We can curry favours. But right now I'm going to try and get the Pope on side. Because, yeah, Trent we have 4 favours with. We're generating 0.18 a month. Siena is generating 0.16, and they're nearly at 10 anyway. We do want Diplo Tech level 4. We can get the marketplace. The increase of trade range isn't that important. Really, it's the head of time that I want. The ahead of time bonus is pretty helpful, and we'll be able to get our military tech 4 soon as well, which is fantastic. Does anybody around us have military tech 4 yet? Naples does. Oh, that's an important event for us. So, Aragon effectively has tried to keep Naples. What happens, though, is Naples gets a massive amount of liberty desire from that event outcome. They're having issues all their own with their own rebels. But now what it means is their liberty desire is above 50%, so more people want to break away than don't. So other nations, if they want to, can now support their independence and then go to war with Aragon if that happens. We're not going to be able to get involved for a couple of reasons. I mean, look, we have a negative of minus 2032. So, we're not getting involved there. But other nations potentially can. We will watch, because it's going to be interesting for us, because realistically what we want is we want Spain, or Castile at the moment, and Aragon to go away. We don't want them in Italy because they're going to be far bigger. We would much rather have a broken up nation down here that isn't owned by anybody. Just so we can then go down and scoop it up later. Doesn't usually go that way, but that would be the preference. We still don't have anybody at war, really, on this side of Italy. We're going to stop befriending the Pope for now, because if we go into our papacy piece, we now have a 56% bonus. We're making nearly 4 papal influence a year. We'll go through it when we get to 50-ish on what options we have. So what we're going to do is we are going to go and curry some favours. The AI can ask you for favours too, so it's not just a one-way street. We are now gaining 0.27 favours each month because we're currying favours, so we're getting a much larger amount. Again, I'd still rather not have, you know, just us 3-1 province miners against 2 that aren't, but it is what it is. I'll take the short-term hit to get a bit more mercantilism. Mercantilism is just in here in trade. So your mercantilism right now, for example, is 27%, which gives us every 1% mercantilism you have, you get 2% more trade power. So it is very, very helpful. We are going to get the Pike Square. It doesn't give us any new units, but it makes them, the units we already have, better just in every way. More tactics and more morale. Tech level 4 is very, very important. And I wasn't going to be declaring war on anybody unless it was a slam dunk without Tech 4. I'm still not going to attack them, because even with the advantage, they would probably get military Tech 4 while I'm at war with them. And then they would return the favour by kicking my butt. But we will probably still do the build to force limit bonus before we declare war, because that extra bonus to morale is going to be very, very helpful. I wish we could get the nobility equilibrium to 50 without having to give them something ridiculous, but that is not the case for us. So it's not the way we're going to go. But that's okay. We'll work with what we've got. We're up to 7 favours now, 8 favours with Trent. We are now at 10 with Siena. I don't care that Mzab is going to war with somebody, that doesn't matter. As a result, let's get our army up to full string. We are now losing a little bit of money every turn, but that's fine. We can afford that. If we need be, we could always just get rid of our advisor, but the extra point every month is nice. We also want to make sure that we keep some admin points, because if we do take land from Ferrera or anybody else for that matter, you need it. Our leader is a sinner, so when your leader is in charge for 10 years, they get another trait. This is a terrible trait. It just means, extra 2 unrest everywhere that we own. So that is absolutely awful. It will become worse. It's bad for us right now, but not horrendous because, look, we're still at an unrest effectively of -8. But when we take over another province, which will be unstable anyway, that is really bad. Because it just makes it even more likely to rebel. I will say, I played EU4 pretty much when it first came out, and the rebellion system back then was... Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it was terrible. There would just be a random percentage every month based on the unrest that a rebellion would happen. Now, there's a random percentage that it'll happen, but it's a ticker. So you have to have it tick 10 times before an actual rebellion happens. Before then, you could have rebellions just pop up out nowhere. Venice is at war, and they're defending against the Ottomans. I mentioned it was going to happen. Now it is. So, we want to keep an eye on that. I haven't got a claim on any Venetian land at the moment. I'd love to get Ravenna, but we haven't quite got to that stage yet. We're much more interested in Ferrara, because Venice have 20,000 troops, and I don't want to deal with that right now, mainly because we just plain can't. The first Christian European power to get a new source of gold gets great old benefits. I can guarantee it will not be us. We don't have a ship. So, it will definitely not be us. It'll be some colonizing nation. It'll probably be Portugal or Spain or Castile, depending what they are at the time. Likely be one or the other. It can sometimes be France or England, but they tend to be a little bit behind the 8 ball, so it tends to be Portugal or Castile. Not us. That's really the only important thing. We do have 10, well actually 11 as it happens, favours now with Trent. So if we were to, they're still not at war, they are, what I'm going to do too, actually I'm going to say I want these provinces, just so the game knows, so the AI can react accordingly. I want these. Now if I try and declare war, you'll notice, yes, Milan will still jump in. When it's a defensive war, there's always a bonus that they'll join. Although actually Milan is in debt, not by a lot, but they are. So that gives them a small penalty, but they'll still very, very easily join in. Siena will now join in, as will Trent, because we have 10 favours. Actually, Siena really, really does not like Ferrara at all. They still wouldn't join unless I use favours, but they really don't like them. Just before I declare, who's Lüneburg even at war with? Oh, they're a defender. And it's not a war where they're either the attacker or the defender. They are helping the defender, but they are not. It's not their land that they're fighting over, which is why we haven't been called in. Okay, so we're going to get involved. We want to take Ferrara, so we are going to do that straight away, declare war. Here's the funny thing. They have a level 3 fort. We only have a level 1 fort. We have the bare minimum that a capital can have. They have an actual castle. We do not have enough troops by ourselves to actually siege their province. Funny as it is, it means we have to tread carefully. I've clicked this button on my army, so I'm hoping that what will happen is that Siena will just come and stack their units on mine. That's the hope. Will Florence let us go through? No. I'm hoping that Siena and Florence get on just enough to be able to get through. What I'm going to do, just in case, is start improving my relations with Florence so that I can then ask for open borders, and because I'll be able to eventually, they should then let Siena through. So as odd as it sounds, we're actually not going to move straight away. The only other thing we're going to do is we're going to take back our guy from Lüneburg. And just in case Trent can't get across Venetian land, I'm going to ask for open borders. That way I know that Trent will be able to join. And clearly they didn't have open borders because they couldn't join me until then. So that's good to know. I don't want to move yet though. If I try and siege this territory out in Modena, it's actually not going to do anything. Purely and simply because they have a castle adjacent to it. Oh, okay. They can get across. Then I don't have to keep befriending. So that's fine. So I don't have to keep defending you guys at all. So what we're going to do is... Honestly, I might as well keep it there. I'm just going to do... Go back to ally. We're going to build a force limit. And we could turn on war taxes, but if you do that, it costs you military points every turn. Okay, and I do have them in one big stack now. So, if you don't have enough troops at a siege location, you get that little red symbol next to the fort. However, when these guys sit on top, because they should join me, which they are, we now have enough troops to siege this. Here's the siege screen in the bottom left. There's a lot going on here. So this is how many troops they have in their castle. By default, it's the fort number times by 1,000. This is the level of the fort. It's 3 because they have a castle and it's their capital. The capital always adds 1. They have bonus to fort defense because this province produces salt. And our siege ability actually is pretty poor, let's be honest. This tells us how many regiments you need. Usually it's fort level times 3, give or take. I have to keep an eye on this though, because they're starting to siege out their capital, and their capital is, they're a 1 province minor, so if they get sieged out, they're going to peace out. It's as simple as that. What we should do, however, though, is, because I do not want that to happen, I'm going to keep that 2 stack alone so the siege doesn't get further behind. I want to, if I can... Oh, I can't even get up there. So I have open borders with Venice, but because I've come from Bologna, this is blocking me, so I can't even go up there. Okay, so we're just going to keep going and leave it alone then. Still just got that. Okay, yeah, our election will come soon. So what we're hoping is they don't get really lucky on their roll. And so far, they've been getting reasonably lucky. We go back to our siege just to go with. So here's a timer. We have 2 lead. You have 2 pips of siege, so we have a 2 there. We don't have any cannons. Nobody does. We don't have any ships, so we get a -2 because it's on the coast, but we can't blockade it. -3 because that's the fort level. We don't have the walls breached, so we don't get a bonus. If you do breach walls, you get a +3 roll. And then this is our literal roll. And this is our progress. So right now, every time we roll, we have a -42% chance of winning the siege. I.e., we're not winning the siege right now. But depending how well we roll, will dictate kind of what the effects are. So at the moment, if we roll a 1, it spreads disease. If we roll a 13, which would be the highest we can roll right now, it gives a food shortage. And different rolls increase the odds of, you know, the chance of winning going up. Well, the other thing we are doing, now that we're sat here, is we have looted the province. And something called devastation is going on. Basically, we're turning it into a load of rubbish. I'm going to take the Diplo points. They might... Oh, 7% roll and they won. You're going to see that a lot from the AI. They are very, very good at winning the 7% roll. So what will happen here is that Trent will peace out any time now, which is bad news for us, but it's a thing that will happen. We will still probably be just about okay. Yeah, now that they've peaced out. They had to break our alliance with us, which is pretty poor. I'm just going to join these back together so I don't forget. So we have 7,000 each. We still have a 14,000 stack. They have a 14,000 stack. So still, I'm not worried. This is also a farmland, so it's not as if they attack us, because when you're on somebody's castle, you are always the attacker if you're the hostile force. So, for example, if I was going here to Como, it's a mountain. The attacker on a mountain gets a -2 penalty. So if I was sieging that out and then Milan's troops came in, I'd be the attacker, so I would get the -2 penalty. They are slowly building more troops. Worst case scenario, where are they going? They're going to France. So they're going to try and siege Siena, is what's happening, which will take them forever, even though it's a level 1 location. purely because they're not going to be able to blockade it, presumably. So that's fine. Yeah, because Siena has ships. They just didn't come to help for this for some reason. Don't know why. AI does some weird things sometimes. If they'd brought their ships over, we would be sieging this way more quickly. But I'm fine with them slowly sieging this because, you see that skull? They're getting attrition. So any army that's in hostile territory will suffer attrition. You know, maybe they're dying of disease or lack of supply or whatever it is. Whatever it is bad. As a result, you will start to hemorrhage manpower. And then if you run out... It's funny that Trent's now allied Milan. That's pretty rude. Rude much. I don't blame them. It kind of helps them against Austria in case Austria gets kind of frisky with taking them. But yeah, it gives them some extra protection there. We also do have the option, if we need to, of... Wow, we can let this go. We can recruit some mercenaries if we need to. We can just get like a 4-stack of just troops in our area if we need to. It would put us over our limit, which would mean they'd be incredibly expensive to maintain. But if we had to do it temporarily to break this out, because they do have more troops than us now. They have 19,000 total. We have 14. So we do want to keep an eye on it. It took us forever to win that siege. So yeah, what we're going to do, just to make sure that we do win out in this battle, I'm going to hire these guys. It's going to take 11 days. So we are going to wait. I guess we'll just go over to Ferrara for now. Actually, I'm not going to run the risk in case what happens is I move here, and this is you can't move back because Parma's hostile, and it has a fort. So just in case, we're going to wait. I'm going to let that 4-stack come. It's going to start with absolutely no morale whatsoever, so we don't want to move immediately. It's going to cost us a fortune this month. We're going to go from 27 to 23. We're losing quite a lot of gold. We're going to wait one more month because they're not going to complete their siege. They're both at 0%. So that's fine, because what will almost certainly happen here is the second I go and attack this stack, we're going to go now because they'll get the tick before we arrive. Milan should come and try and defend Ferrara's 8,000 troops. Or not. I'm okay with that outcome. As long as we can get there in time. Because we don't want them to take out this location. I thought they were going to break their siege, but they didn't. They didn't get their 14% roll. We actually stack wiped that stack of units, so they lost all of their troops. And we are actually somehow losing. Why is our discipline stats so bad? Oh, it's because Siena's the leader because they probably have the best general. But that is very unfortunate because their stats are rubbish. So this is actually going to be pretty close. We rolled a 0 there. That wasn't so fun. We might actually lose this engagement. It's going to be pretty close. But no, we just about, by the skin of our teeth, won. You'll notice they lost about 5,600 troops. We lost 7,000 because our score for discipline is so bad. We're also now going to hemorrhage cash next turn, next couple of months, purely because we're recruiting, and recruiting is expensive. There we go. So we're going to sit in place, and we are going to make sure that Ferrara has no ability to recruit any more troops. We are probably going to have to take out a loan, maybe even 2, but it will definitely be worth it. The other thing we actually want to do, we don't need to befriend Florence anymore. What we need to do is try and befriend Austria, because they're probably going to be pretty unimpressed after we take some land. How many troops does Milan now have? 7,000. So we do outnumber them. But, as we spoke before, this is a hill. So if they attack me, I'm still the attacker, which means I get the penalty. So what we're going to do is we're only going to move our stack. We're going to leave the mercenaries alone so that we're not getting them attritioned as well and just costing ourselves more money for no reason. It's not really going to slow the siege down because this guy has no cannons. There's no leader here. So that's fine. We do now have high income, so if we wanted to, we could pop this, but I'm not going to right now. It's a waste. We had 2 events pop at once there. The trial is a bad event, usually. I'm going to sacrifice some Republican tradition for some stats. And then for the cruelty of the mercenaries, we can either get some army professionalism, and then the mercenaries cost more to look after, or we can sacrifice some prestige and become incredibly unrest heavy. So no, we're clearly not going to do that. Definitely not going to do that. If we can at least siege out Parma, I bet Milan would just peace out. We don't have any diplomats to actually do the piecing right now, but right now, for example, they are absolutely not interested in piecing out. I bet Ferrara would be. Yeah, they'll peace out very, very happily, but we're not going to do it yet because I want to eat the whole thing. Oh, they're going over to try and de-siege Ferrara. That's cute. Oh, I was going to say, I'm okay with that, because then I could attack them and not get a penalty. But they have changed their mind. Are they just coming back with a small stack? Oh, 2,000. Yeah, that's irrelevant. That's not enough troops to de-siege that. The Pope has called for a crusade against Tunis. We're going to completely ignore that. That's of no interest to us. Oh, they were going to attack us, and then they didn't. Not sure what the thought pattern on that was. I am very, very happy if they come over here, because I'll be able to siege this out way before they'll be able to siege this. Or de-siege it, I guess. We'll keep this rolling. We'll keep this episode going until they're done. Yeah, they have to start again. We took out a loan of a whole 7 gold. We can take out some massive loans. So it's fine if we have to take out a couple, because we're going to ask for gold from Milan. So we'll just use that to pay the loans off. But I would like to get this tick done sooner rather than later, because the longer this takes, the more it's costing me. The more loans I'll have to take out, the unhappier I'm going to be. So I would like to get this done, please. Anytime now. I'm not going to go to speed 4 yet, because it'll probably smash everything. Come on. This game's processing a lot of things at once, so it is reasonably resource intensive. Like I said, that's why I said earlier, we're never going to be doing speed 5, at least not on recording, maybe off camera, because it will cause everything to explode. And I would quite like to keep it relatively consistent. We're now up to pretty much a 50-50 roll. It would be nice if we could, you know, actually get this siege done, please. Anytime now. They have the ships there, so that you'll notice they don't have the penalty, which is good for them. And they don't get attrition, because this is technically their land they're de-sieging. So we have the skull, they don't. We failed that roll again. Come on. The rolls take longer too, because we're on a hill. Friends in need. No, we're not going to ask for anything from Lundberg, because if you say yes to that mission, you usually end up having to pay back way more than they give you. So I have no interest in doing that. I can't risk getting rid of my mercenaries yet, because then they could just come up and smack us, which I don't want to do. Oh, come on. Deserters defend. Defend and run. We could... If we could at least break through the wall, we could then just rush in. We'd take quite a lot of casualties, but it would speed up this result. But we are getting pretty unlucky on the rolls. Tends to be what happens when you're the human player. Thank goodness. Okay. Will they peace out? Are you kidding me? They won't actually peace out. Okay. That's fine. All that means then is we're going to have to attack them. I was hoping they would just give up at this point, but I guess not. Did Siena get Tech 4 yet? No, they're still on Tech 3, so we're going to hemorrhage numbers as well, because for some reason, it's using their stats, not mine. Presumably because the Sienan leader has 2 maneuver, so he's faster than me? I wonder if... I'm going to roll for a general once. He's not terrible. I guess I'll just use him anyway. I was hoping to get one with higher maneuver, so I get in there first, but... Could be worse. Yeah. Their stats suck. So we're going to lose a lot of men. We're going to have more people to start off with, obviously, but we're going to lose a lot of men unnecessarily because Siena's military tech is terrible. Get some good war score off that, though. They're going to probably run away to Como, which I do not want to have to deal with, because I'll just attrition like Billy O. Will they peace out yet? No, so we're probably going to have to take their capital, which conveniently is on a farmland, so at least there's that going for it. So we're going to start sieging that out. We're going to leave our mercenaries in Cremona, though. Might as well siege that and get some money from them, because like we said, we're hemorrhaging loans. We're up to 4 loans. It's only 28 gold we've borrowed, though, so in the grand scheme of things, still, you know, a tiny, tiny amount. They did move to Como. We didn't want to attack them there, even if we could, because -2 penalty for us. No thank you. And the longer and longer this war goes, they'll actually peace out now, but not with a huge amount going. I don't need this idle. We have 19 war score, so we could do that. War reparations means we get 10% of their income for 10 years. And then how much gold could I get off them? That would be the maximum. So I can get 68 gold. I would get just over half of it because I've done more of the legwork. I'm just going to say okay right now. And then we are going to immediately disband those mercenaries because we don't need them. And then in 2 days, we can finally piece these guys out. Now, this is the one downside to being in the Holy Roman Empire. If we take this, it's going to be deemed unlawful territory, so Austria could potentially ask us to give it back. We can say no, but it hurts our relations with them and everybody else in the Holy Roman Empire. That's why we're going to take both and just say we're going to take the hit. We're going to take all the money off them that we can, which is 65, and we'll get just over half of it. We get up to 38 aggressive expansion. If a nation gets to 50 aggressive expansion, people can join a coalition against you. So it is something to be wary of. But that's all we have to do. Send demands. We have both of those provinces now. We want to make sure we move our army to Ferrara. We're going to core both of them. They are very expensive to core. Partly because we have a little bit of corruption, a little bit of war exhaustion. You can wait, but you tend to want to do it straight away. Ignore the weird typo there, or the gibberish for development. So we're going to core those straight away. It does take some time. It's going to take until 1458-ish for both of them. But that went not too badly. And just so I don't forget, we're going to repay the loans. Repaying them earlier does not make them cheaper. You're just normally paying the interest off over time. I would rather do it now so I don't forget. And I definitely want to turn down our army maintenance temporarily so we can try and make some money. Because you're going to notice unrest 12.2 and 12.2, so they are going to rebel at some point. You can increase their autonomy, but I don't really want to do that because then they're going to be less effective. So we're just trying to save some money, have our guys very slowly accumulate their manpower back and their actual overall soldier strength. But we'll talk more about it next time. So finally, we got into a war. We did pretty well. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care now. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching the video.